Palm Sunday, celebrate success. You know, I'm going to put a little ad at the beginning here. If any of you would like some additional spiritual and mental stimulation on Sunday mornings, come early. Because at 8:30 in the upper room, at 8:30 in the Holistic Center, Suite 320, we have a Course in Miracles group. And it's more than a Course in Miracles. It really is about exploring the miracles in our lives. And I bring it up because it's a worthy thing to do if you're an early bird. But also this morning we were talking about, or at least I was talking about, symbology. I'm big on symbology. The line in the Course that says, I give everything I see all the meaning it has for me. And that's what we do in our life. We actually assign meaning to things. Some things we assign good meaning. That reminds me, to love myself. That reminds me to be kind to others. And some things we ascribe other meanings. That reminds me never to do that, But we give everything the meaning. That's what helps us learn about ourselves. So my job this morning is to hopefully give you a little more understanding of what's behind Palm Sunday. What that time is all about. So that you can choose maybe a different meaning, choose a more inspirational meaning, or a more complete meaning for you in your life. So Palm Sunday, let's kind of set the stage here. It really is seen as a time of success, which is why we're talking about celebrate success. But the life of Jesus actually is demonstrating a different kind of success than what we traditionally think of in the world. If I had to say it, the life of Jesus really is telling us that a good definition of success is living a life where you're accomplishing things that are important and meaningful to you that may not be the things that are important and meaningful to other people. It's living a life where you are fulfilling your mission before you worry about doing what other people want you to do. Living a life that really serves the greater good rather than individual or personal good. In fact, it's living a life that has a long-term view of things rather than looking at immediate gratification. And really, if there's anything else, Jesus led a life where he was serving and bringing what was needed, even if it wasn't what people wanted at that moment in time. New way to look at success. So the context of all of this, understand that this triumphal entry into Jerusalem came literally the day after he raised Lazarus from the dead, which was a day or so after he made the blind man see and a bunch of his other miracles. So, in a worldly way, this whole, making the blind see and raising the dead was a major PR coup for Jesus and his ministry. Now, the truth of the matter is that because of all this notoriety, Jesus was actually kind of laying low. Because all the good things that he was doing were not attracting good, loving intention from the powers that be. And frankly, the Pharisees were looking for a way to find him and to put him out of commission one way or the other. So they were running scared. And Jesus was kind of laying low so that he didn't create more of a stir in that realm. Now, the miracles. Miracles are wonderful things, but sometimes we don't get the real message. So here's the message that I believe the people got from all the miracles that Jesus did. Number one, they began to see Jesus as the healing king. You heal the lame, you stop blood flowing, you open up eyes that haven't seen their whole life. This by the way, is like Obamacare on steroids. Number one, it always works. And number two, there's no premium. We want that God. Now, the other thing is that because of the miracles, they began to see him as a provider king. Man, I mean, he can feed 5,000 people with a couple loaves and a couple fish. He can take care of everything that we need. And the third thing is they began to see him as what they were looking for, which was their political king. I mean, obviously, anybody who could raise the dead and feed 5,000 people with a couple pieces of bread had enough power to set them free from the Romans. What they missed in all of this was they did not see him as their spiritual king. Now, there actually are only 2 times recorded in the Bible where the people really were trying to force Jesus to ascend to a position of leadership. One was after he fed the 5,000. Hey, this is good stuff. You got to do this more and take care of business here. And the other was after he raised Lazarus from the dead. So, what happens is that both times Jesus politely refused. He refused to be what they thought they needed at that moment in time, because he was here to be what he knew they really needed. So let's set the stage for Palm Sunday. I have a blank spot right here someplace, so I'll stay right here. All right, so Palm Sunday. This was the big gathering for Passover. Now let me give you a little clue about Passover in case you don't remember. Passover actually is celebrating the results of an ancient curse. Back when the Jews were enslaved by the Egyptians, Moses came along and said, "Hey, Pharaoh, set my people free." Made a good movie, by the way. It was good. And pretty much Pharaoh said, "Ha ha." And so Moses said, "Look, you don't set us free. There's going to be this and this and this and this." And frankly, it became a spitting contest between the two gods. All right, my God is stronger than your God. Yeah, well, prove it. So we had locusts, we had sickness, we had all that kind of stuff. So the 10th plague, Moses said, you got one more chance. Because otherwise, God's going to come down and he's going to kill the firstborn in every family. And Pharaoh said, not likely. And of course, that's what happened. I mean, just so you know, that's what happened. But here's what Passover is all about. An angel came down and told the Jews, look, just take a little lamb's blood, smear it on your door, so when the angel of death comes by, he'll think you already hit this house. So all of their firstborn were spared. And with that, Pharaoh kicked him out. Changed his mind halfway down the road, but that's a whole other story. So that's really what Passover is celebrating. Now, the scene in Jerusalem at the time of Palm Sunday wasn't really so much a celebration. That was a good excuse, but it really was a political rally, a demonstration. Because the Jews once more were feeling like we've been slaves now to the Romans for way too long. We got to get free. Interesting, by the way, if you kind of read through the lines, whoever reads between the lines and writes the commentaries on the Bible, but Jesus was coming into Jerusalem from the east. At the same time, the Roman legion was coming into Jerusalem from the west. They were coming in basically to do crowd control because they knew what was going on. And they wanted to be a very commanding presence to make sure that nobody messed up, that they reinforced their dominance. There's one other thing I have to kind of clear up, because it was interesting to me when I realized that, they all greeted him, Hosanna, Well, we think of that as like praise. And it actually wasn't. Hosanna is a Jewish word, which really is a prayer. Translated directly means save us. Save us. We know you're the one who can set us free. So the people knew what they wanted. Now, in retrospect, we make it all wonderful, and they recognized and were welcome with opening arms. Save us. So let's go to the donkey, sometimes called the colt in the Bible. The only reason for the donkey, Jesus spent a lot of time, by the way, trying to fulfill the Scriptures so that people would actually recognize, hey, I see all the signs that have been prophesied. Jesus is doing these. Maybe he's here to wake us up. Maybe he's the one. So in the Old Testament it said the king will come in on a donkey. There's a whole thing about humility versus riding on a big horse, and, about peace versus, the war horse kind of a thing and stuff like that. But basically, he came in on a donkey because it said in the Old Testament the king will come in on a donkey. Again, remember, Jesus was coming as the spiritual king, and I gotta believe some part of him was hoping the people would get that. But all they could focus on at that point in time was their political king. Palm leaves. There's all kinds of stuff about, they put palm leaves down on the road and their coats down the road so the dust didn't come up because the roads were dry and all that kind of stuff. But what this actually comes from is it comes from the Jewish festival of booths. I don't know, by the way, I forgot to look that up. Why do they call it the festival of booths? Okay? B-O-O-T-H-S. But essentially, let me read you this here. In Leviticus, in the Old Testament, it lays out the festival of booths. And it's, by the way, one of the required celebrations in the Jewish faith at that time. It said, on the first day you shall take the fruit of majestic trees, branches of palm trees, boughs of leafy trees, and willows of the brook, and you shall rejoice before the Lord your God for 7 days. Now, the festival of booths, by the way, was a time when the Jewish people were reminded, number one, of their their nomadic heritage. How's that? Okay? They tended to go from place to place. They lived very simply. And so during the festival of booths, they were required to sleep in tents and lay on the ground on top of palm leaves. Wow. To remind them of that nomadic roots, but also to remind them of being set free from Egypt, being led across the desert by Moses. So you have to get that what they're doing is they're saying to Jesus, look, we see you as our Moses. We see you as bringing us our freedom from this enslavement. First thing Jesus did when he went into Jerusalem, first thing he did is he went straight to the temple. Now, he didn't go to the castle. He didn't go to see Herod. He didn't go to the symbol of political power. He went to the symbol of spiritual power in Jerusalem. And what he saw there is what I'm making up. He was just seeing as an unfolding pattern. The emphasis even there in the temple was worldly. So we have that wonderful story of him, going in and turning over the tables and chasing out the money changers and all of that. He's basically trying to tell us in every way possible, get the message, guys. This is not about worldly stuff. This is spiritual. An opportunity to awaken. So, I mentioned earlier that when the people kept saying, Jesus, be this, come on, be our king, all that kind of stuff, he turned them down. He never said no, by the way. In case you notice, he really didn't say a whole lot. Sometime read the whole story of Easter week and stuff like that when he's on trial and he's going, well, if you say so. You know? I mean, pretty much it's like whatever you want to say, you're going to believe anyway, so I have nothing to say. Non-compliance, there you go. See, Jesus was really neutral. Everybody could see in Jesus exactly what they projected onto Jesus. And you might notice, if you remember the story, or if you just look at the world, as people change, what they project onto Jesus, in this case, changes. One day they love him, and the next day they hate him. He didn't change at all. They changed. Remember, he came to offer what was really needed. And he didn't really give them what they wanted. So my question, my issue with all of this, the opportunity that I see in Palm Sunday, is to recognize all the times in my life when I have been as blind as the Jewish people at that time. So you need to ask yourself, how many times have you actually asked and expected God out there to handle your immediate problem in a very worldly way? Fix my finances, get my car to work, get me a job. We're doing the same thing. How many times have we missed the spiritual opportunity because we have been focused on, I don't know what that is. We've been focused on worldly manifestation. Either celebrating it or wanting it.
What you got in here, Robert?
That's okay.
For a while.
See, all the times we're looking for a physical miracle, what we really need is a spiritual miracle. How many times have we looked at Christ out there instead of recognizing the Christ in us that's just waiting to be set free? Now, I have just one last point I want to make before we're done here today, because I want to dispel any rumors or false beliefs here. Following your mission, being love in the world in your way, does not lead to crucifixion. Get that? See, Jesus came to make a point. And crucifixion was his tool. His tool. Now, you could choose to do that if you want. You could choose to set it up to be persecuted. But that's not your path. That's not the natural result of you living who you are supposed to be. That was Jesus' message, and that was the best way he knew to deliver that message. His point was that we are spiritual beings. We are not physical beings. He said in the Bible, destroy this temple and I'll rebuild it in 3 days. Crucifixion was his chosen way to deliver his message. So please, 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 do not use Jesus' example as an excuse not to be the Christ you are created to be. See, each of us is here because we have an individual, unique gift, a unique expression of love that no one else on this planet can bring. Because they ought to be busy doing their own thing, expressing love in their own way. We need to fully give our gift. We actually are here to experience spiritual success, not worldly success. And by the way, for those of you who say, I want them both, you can have them both.
under one condition. Go for spiritual success first, and worldly success will be a natural result. When you seek worldly success and then say, well, once I have all this handled, then I'll get spiritual, it isn't going to happen. We are each here to follow our own spiritual guidance and not be distracted or detoured or delayed by our fears or by our worldly thoughts. See, we are each here on our own unique way to be love in the world. And that's what I call success. Thank you.